Hello and welcome back to another Bad Movie Reviews review hosted by your favourite tribute movie reviewer from Down Under, myself, Ben. As you can probably tell, this is a duo YouTube channel and my partner in crime, Daniel, is actually away this week, so it'll just be myself reviewing the films coming out currently, so until he's back next week. But I am reviewing and happy to review a film that I've actually been looking forward to and heard some good things heading into it, which is none other than The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which I actually think was in my top 10 most anticipated for the year because I'm a big fan of the books. I have also read the book that this is based on, and I'm a big fan of obviously the original trilogy, maybe Mockingjay Part 1 and 2 aside. But if you don't know about the film or the concept, it is basically about President Snow and his situation on how he basically became who he is. So it is set at the 10th Hunger Games, which I think the originals were about the 72nd or 73rd. So that gives you an idea of where it's set in time. But it is also directed by Francis Lawrence, who did direct Catching Fire Onwards as well as Red Sparrow, which also had Jennifer Lawrence. But he's obviously back in the director's chair to do another Hunger Games film. But I am happy to report that this is actually probably one of my favorites of the series. I do have some nitpicks, like obviously the previous films, but to touch on, I guess, the film in 3 acts, because it does, if you've read the book, it does kind of similar thing take place in 3 acts, and in this film, obviously all films are 3 acts in a way, but in this film you do have the title cards at the start of each act. But to touch on everything in terms of behind the camera, it is everything we know and love from the Hunger Games films, like the production design, the costume design, the world of Pan Am, which is a character in its own, I consider. Everything comes to life here, and it is a different setting than what we obviously see in the Hunger Games series, where it's obviously more of a digital age, and it's obviously recent after the uprising of the districts and that sort of civil war that they obviously go under. So it is a different Pan Am that we're actually used to seeing, and I really enjoyed and loved the visualization and then bringing that to life. I thought it was really interesting, and I did really enjoy that. That's obviously a big aspect in this film, and I did think Francis Lawrence also brought his best direction. I thought the cinematography in this film at times was beautiful as well. Like especially in the 3rd act, there are certain scenes where I was like, this is gorgeous. But I mean, there's a certain scene even when the Hunger Games start. Obviously, there's the thing people know and love when they talk about these Hunger Games films is like the Catching Fire transition when J-Law's character Katniss is going up into the games in the second one, and it expands to the IMAX format. There's a certain scene in this film, and you probably see it in the trailer when it's got a wide angle lens, but it's like a serious close up and all the action's taking place behind, and it's just a beautiful thing to look at, to be honest. But everything in that aspect I actually really, really enjoyed. And that kind of, I got to give him props as well, because this film, in my opinion, actually has probably some of the best performances that we have seen in Hunger Games movies. That really comes at bay with obviously the 2 performances, the main performances with Tom Blythe or Coriolanus Snow and Rachel Zegler as Lucy Gray Baird. They are both brilliant, really. Like they demand your attention, and every time they're on the screen, you're kind of glued into their performances. And I think Tom Blythe has the makings to be a genuine star and like a tour de force, to be honest. Obviously, Rachel Zegler we've kind of previously seen in films like West Side Story and even most recently Shazam, and like she's obviously an up-and-coming actress. She's also got Snow White coming up in the future. So she's kind of already paved her way in a way. But like Tom Blythe, I'm super excited to see anything he does in the future. I know he stars in Billy the Kid, the TV show. But this is kind of the first time I've seen him in a real demanding role, and obviously on the big screen. And man, I loved everything I saw from him. But not only that, like Viola Davis, who we obviously, you know what we're getting with her. She was seriously, seriously good as Dr. Ghoul, however you pronounce it. She was good, and you could tell she had fun with this, like, game, like the obviously, technically President Snow's position back then, like the games maker and the controller of the games, like you could tell she was having serious fun. And then also Peter Dinklage, who we also know and love, most probably commonly known from Game of Thrones series as Tyrion. He was seriously good as well. But the first two acts are genuinely brilliant in my opinion. Everything from the development of the characters of especially the two leads in the first act, and how intriguing it is when it takes on the political side of things, which, you know, we obviously still see in today's society, in today's world. And obviously this is a fictionalized situation, but it is something that we can heavily relate to and empathize with in the situation they're in. And I really dug that concept and that kind of, I mean, obviously, as I said, I've read the book, so like I kind of knew what I was getting myself into, but I really dug the way they brought that to life. And I loved everything about the first act. It really got me enthralled, really got me intrigued and empathizing with all these characters that you see. And then obviously everything in the games was super exciting, like the whether it be the concepts that they outroll and the character choices and everything we see unfold in that game situation was really, really riveting. And some of the best games you've seen, obviously Catching Fire probably comes to mind in terms of that. But I just thought the character choices and the characters that we got to see in this film were kind of really intriguing. Obviously, the main kind of thing is with the Hunger Games, you do have that character development with Katniss and Peter and even Gale and Hammock and all those characters that you do see develop. And you've obviously got that second film and then the third film, whereas I really empathized with a lot of these characters in this film, and I really dug the whole game scenario. And Act 1 and Act 2 really, really brought me in. The gripes I have with this film and what kind of didn't elevate it to genuinely one of my favorites of the year, to be honest. And I really did love this film, and anyone who loves the Hunger Games series will probably love it too, in my opinion. It's the same gripes as I had in the book, to be honest. It's a very, very faithful adaptation, really. There's a couple things here and there. But Act 3, it does... I think the film clocks in at about 2 hours and 40 minutes or so. The film does overstay its welcome a little bit due to the pacing, because Act 1, you're obviously very intrigued, and it's all the character development in that sort of Pan Am situation and the capital, and you're seeing this game situation, which I didn't touch on. Jason Schwartzman also is absolutely fantastic as the host. You can tell he's having a serious amount of fun here. And then Act 2, you're obviously getting the game, like you're seeing the Hunger Games unfold, where it's all the action, all the high stakes, where obviously you're going to be a little bit more invested and intrigued. And then Act 3 is kind of where it slows down a little bit, and they're probably the same length of each act, to be honest. It's just due to the pacing of that, I do think it's a little bit jarring, and it does get to, and I had this gripe with the book, it does become a little bit boring, but then towards the end, it does actually become a hell of a lot more intriguing and a hell of a lot more interesting, and the character development that you see unfold in that third act is awesome. It just kind of unfortunately loses you along the way. And then what happens is the film just kind of ends. And those are the gripes I had. And I'm intrigued to see if, you know, when Daniel's back from his trip, if he feels the same way, or even if you feel the same way if you're watching this. Because being a fan of the book, that's probably how I felt with the book as well. It kind of, the first two acts are brilliant, and then it kind of does just end. But the reason why I really love this film is being a big fan of the Hunger Games series. And I've said this when we've reviewed prequels before, or films in trilogies and sequels, any of these films. The one thing I really love about when the film does this right is, in my opinion, it heightens the original form of media. So, for instance, I think this film actually, in my opinion, and I did read the book, so it's like I already felt this way, to be fully honest, but in my opinion, this book does add a little bit more to the Hunger Games series, and obviously President Snow's character, and it does make it a little bit more interesting, in my opinion. And I think that's what really makes it work, is you really can, you know, there's some moral ambiguity yeah, however you pronounce it, I'm butchering it, but moral dilemmas in the film that you kind of obviously empathize with, and then you don't at the same time, because there's some serious things at play here with, obviously, kids murdering each other, and it's it is a really bleak film as well. It's probably the bleakest of the Hunger Games series, and it's not for children by any means. It's very, very dark. But man, I had a great time with this. I think it's definitely probably up there with Catching Fire for me in terms of the best Hunger Games entry. If it was a little bit shorter, if it kind of tightened the third act a little bit, it would be right up there. And I'm really happy to say that this is a seriously good film. And I hope, I'm sure the cinema was packed. I'm sure it'll make its money. But man, I'm happy to say it is seriously up there. And I had a great time with this film. If you have seen it, which I think it comes out nationwide sort of this weekend, if you have seen it, please let me know what you think, because I am intrigued to see if I am a bit of an outlier. Usually I bounce off Daniel a bit here and there, so I kind of understand where someone else sits on the film. But being that I did see it on my lonesome, it's kind of just how I feel, and I've sat on my thoughts a little bit. So if you have seen it, let me know what you think below. If you like the review, comment, like, subscribe, and without further ado, we'll catch you next time.